right, it's heavy hitter time. Cosmo Macero of O'Neill & Associates, Peter Kajis of the Boston Phoenix. They're here to talk politics and everything else that's going on in the world. Let's start with Aurora, Colorado, Cosmo. Not so much your reaction to the shooting, but your reaction to the politics of the shooting. We now have Chris Christie ripping Mayor Bloomberg for grandstanding on the heels of this shooting. Who you got in this one?
I'd say it's all very predictable. The sort of predictable pace of calls for gun control, which is a reasonable reaction in the face of such a terrible and violent tragedy, I gotta say. So predictable calls for gun control, predictable chirping and attacks on people calling for gun control and saying that you're politicizing this, it's too soon, it's too early. And, you know, it's something I would expect, just didn't know where it was gonna show up, and it shows up in New York.
The president there to console, but hasn't offered much political feeling on this, Peter. Mitt Romney heading to Europe for fundraisers. Is that about what you expect from these two?
Unfortunately, yes. I disagree a bit with Cosmo. The calls from gun control are coming from largely people who can't do anything about it. I find it really remarkable that the two candidates for president, the Republican and the Democrat, who both earlier in their careers were firmly committed to a ban on assault rifles, have had nothing to say. I mean, this is just the outsourcing of our policy on gun control to the NRA.
And you'll forgive me, Cosmo, if I don't side with the right on this one. This is the same group, by the way, every time an illegal immigrant hits somebody in a car, screams bloody murder the next day about how we need to crack down on the borders, and yet they're saying we can't talk about gun control.
You know, I'm with you. Look, I mean, that is palpable political fear of the first or second most powerful lobby in America, maybe the first being the AARP. Nonetheless, you know, whether you can do anything about it or not, you got to expect there's going to be that discussion and debate. And I think Peter is right. It needs to be at the highest level. It just so happens that it took this tragedy, like it always does, a major tragedy, to get that discussion going.
Well, that's the question, whether anything comes to this or not. And in an election year, my guess is not.
Well, it's like blaming the children who were abused at Penn State, you know, and saying that the NCAA is exploiting those kids in whacking the university.
Well, let's get to Penn State for a second, because I know you've been waiting on this one with bated breath. One, your thoughts on the punishment. Two, your thoughts on where Penn State goes from here.
Yeah, you know what? I think the punishment is appropriately devastating to the program, very damaging to the university. But you know what? It seems about right, and I think that's indicative of how they accepted it very quickly. Now, here's the thing. It leaves, openly, you know, embraced it. Here's the thing. It leaves open the possibility for recovery over time, which I think is important for the university, and some level of redemption, not for the people who are responsible for this awful ignorance of a terrible thing that was going on, but for the university itself to have some kind of redemption and recovery from this over time. It might be 25 years, but I think that that's important. It seems appropriate to me.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that the NCAA was this strict with the university. However, I still don't think they were strict enough. I mean, what we have is another example of a too big to fail institution. And frankly, and I get your point, I think they should have been suspended, you know, for 4 or 5 years.
Look, they said they weren't going to give them the death penalty. Sure looked like they did to me. Arose by any other name. They killed this team, no question about it.
Yeah, you lose 20 scholarships. You are not competing for anything other than, you know, school pride.
Quickly, I got a minute left, Cosmo. Down to an area you know very well because you live in Marshfield sometimes. The Hummerock area of Scituate, this is the whole bonfire scandal around July 4th again. Well, some of the residents got together over the weekend and said they want to secede from Scituate. Hummerock wants to be its own town now.
Yeah. You know what? Secession sounds like a lot of fun and games until you have to plow a road, fill a pothole, build a school, put out a fire. So it sounds easy. Let's secede because we can't have fireworks. Oh, wait a second. That means we have to actually provide local services. I don't know about that. I said earlier on this, in the summer, you know what? Every community sort of judges how safe can we handle these types of things. And if the community says, you know what, it's unsafe, well then fine. You knock it off.
I don't agree with the community, but neither do I agree with
the fascists, as the Hummerock people claim the town
Come
of
on.
Situate is.
You know, sit it out for a
Quickly.
couple of years and bring it back into the public arena.
Can't have
might
fireworks,
be what
so
they're doing.
secession is next? That seems a little heavy,
It seems
doesn't
extreme.
Peter Catches of the Phoenix, Cosmo Macero, Vanilla Associates. They are the heavy hitters. The Fox 25 News at 8 starts right now.